What would you do if you won the lottery? The Lotto explores concepts of luck, chance, power dynamics, relationships, sweet, sweet cash. We get a couple jokes about balls, and a great example of a bad writing decision for Andy. And also, I get to share a story that I've been waiting to tell on this channel for like 2 years now. Hey, I'm Chris, and I'm reviewing every episode of The Office ever, and today, we're looking at the Lotto.
I understand nothing.
Written by Charlie Grandy and directed by Big Tuna himself, the Lotto locks us into the episode with a dog stuck in a car cold opening. Locking your doggo in the car can quickly become a dangerous situation for the animal, so Oscar steps up to rescue the pup.
Oh, hey, back, buddy, get back. What? No, hey! Oh!
But that's where his interest in helping really ends, so he boxes the dog back up into the car, this time with some holes, which the sunroof was already open. Now, saving a four-legged friend is a brave act, and you gotta do what you gotta do if there's an emergency, but it doesn't mean there's not ramifications for our actions. And if I were a betting man, which I'm not, I think that as quickly as the theme song started to play, Oscar might be getting slapped with some sort of litigation over this whole event. Or just like plain flat out slapped in a Frank-esque situation. Back from commercial break, we're told that the warehouse workers won the lottery pool and collectively gained $950,000 divided by 6 of them, minus the 37% of their winnings that's going to go straight to the government, bringing the individual total down to approximately $99,750, which brings up the first fascinating question of this episode. Assuming the warehouse workers earn about $35,000 a year at this point, maybe more, maybe less. I'm not really an expert in what fictional companies were paying out back in 2011.
Plus perks, yes.
Nevertheless, it brings up the first interesting question of the episode. Would you leave your current job if you overnight accumulated about 3 to 4 years worth of your income? Like, is that enough money for you to change the entire trajectory of your life? Or are you kind of on board with where your life's already headed? If not, how much money would it take for you to change the entire trajectory of your life? What amount of money, realistically, right? I mean, like $8 billion, but like realistically, what amount of money would it actually take for you to disrupt your plans? Which brings up the very natural next question.
I mean, I don't even know what I'd do with all that money.
What would you do with the money that's dumped into your bank account? Which is something the episode explores throughout its runtime. We get to hear a bit of what the warehouse workers are planning to do with their winnings.
Glenn is starting one of those fat camps where he steals your kid in the middle of the night. G-Day is investing in an energy drink for Asian homosexuals.
But we also get bits of what the office staff reflect on what they would do hypothetically.
I think I would keep working. And for my salary, I guess I would take like $1 a year.
Some of which was unfortunately deleted from most of the cuts of this episode.
First thing I'd buy is new boobs. Oh, for my mom. She has the worst boobs.
And by the way, I kicked myself when I realized I didn't use this nugget for the Scranton Strangler series.
Dum-bum-bum. Flanders smile.
Speaking of kicking himself, Daryl is hit the hardest with the warehouse chance winnings.
They won playing my birthday.
He's further kicked when he's down when his ex, which he recently had a fling with, calls him for one of the newly found Richie Rich's phone numbers.
Oh, you know what? I might have it right. Whoops.
But with the warehouse sitting empty, Andy both needs to motivate Daryl to do his job of staffing those positions, as well as figure out how to get all of the deliveries out that day, as all of the newly found rich people quit their job. Andy asks Jim, who baits Dwight into helping.
As the strongest person in this office, I guess they should.
Okay, no. That, you are so not, oh God.
Aaron volunteers wholeheartedly, and Kevin's voluntold.
Good old Kevin. He'll do anything. Well, guess what? I will not do a good job.
Mostly the warehouse story is a fish out of water series of bits which act as comedic breaks from some of the heavier stuff happening up in the office. Daryl is down, like real down, using tacos as a metaphor for his life.
The guys did invite me out to celebrate, but I decided to just stay home, eat a bunch of tacos in my basement.
Which, now that I'm thinking of it, might be why he has this moment with Nellie next year over tacos.
I can go get us some tacos.
Brilliant. For 2 tacos, we probably need about, what, $20 or
$30.
$30.
Just thought of that. Anyway, Andy's working with Daryl to get his new staff hired, and this is the first time that we see Val show up in the series, though she's definitely overshadowed by the student teacher, the guy with the ball shirt, and Nate.
I'm having... No part of this has anything to do with you.
While Daryl is dealing with life decisions and what brought him to this current juncture, he's considering that the best thing to do is to get fired, possibly because he really doesn't have the courage to quit himself. At this point, the best friends have it out near Dwight's coffee corner, and the real crux of what's bothering Daryl comes to light.
Give me your job.
What?
I'll do it better than you. I earned it.
Andy explains to Daryl why he didn't get the promotion, and then we get maybe the best joke of the episode.
My future is not going to be determined by 7 little white Lotto balls. It's going to be determined by 2 big black balls. I control my destiny.
Meanwhile, the office staff coalition attempt to load the truck, but they get embarrassed at their lack of progress and demonstrates their south of the border inspired innovation.
Uno, dos, tres.
Yeah, I lost my client.
But we have a ton more to talk about, so let's dive into the deeper meaning.
What does a bean mean?
Someone please explain it to Cap.
I didn't know until a few years ago that the lottery used to be this hotly contested political issue. There's still a lot of social commentary around it being a tax on the poor, but the lottery has been around for quite a long time, dating back as early as we could tell to ancient China, even using the lottery to help build the Great Wall. The Romans used a similar lottery system for a lot of projects too, and even the Hebrew Bible also mentions the lottery several times, which all gives us this sense of what the ancients thought of this. Fast forward to the birth of the greatest nation on the planet.
Born in the US of A, baby.
And we have dissertations from Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and Ben Franklin giving their thoughts on state-sponsored gambling. And none of them were scuzzy, right?
Ben Franklin, you're really kind of a sleazebag.
States have been outlawing and legalizing them off and on throughout the history of this country, and the debates actually even still rage on. Basically, the idea is that a state can earn like all of this money, all of that sweet, sweet paper off the backs of these people with a very isolated benefit. Like one person gets to win. And yet hope of the entire crowd, the entire population, everyone who plays, is enough to keep greasing the wheels of progress. The flip side is that the lottery is a tax. It provides income to the state, income that is voluntarily paid to them. But they say that winning a lottery is basically statistically impossible. Now that basically is important for the true believers in the lotto because, it is possible. Someone has to win, right? Maybe is the best answer I can think of. Now I don't play the lottery. And the reason I use the phrase, if I was a betting man, quite a lot on this show is because I'm not a betting man. And I'm basically way too cheap and way too pessimistic to be willing to give up any of my hard-earned dollars for a fleeting moment of thrill that all too often just, leaves me disappointed and feeling like I wasted my time. Which isn't a dig at anyone who does play, because that theme of being left disappointed and feeling like a person has wasted their time is very much the paramount issue of this episode, and it's Daryl who didn't play the lottery, thus didn't win. But I love to talk about this stuff, so let me start with a story which gets triggered in my mind every time I hear this line.
I think we should get a townhouse in Soho.
So it's mostly lofts, but okay.
Right, so my first time traveling for work, I was staying a little north of Manhattan, and I was at this hotel going to and from our headquarters for a few days, and then a friend and I decided we were going to travel into the city for an evening. He had something to do for a few hours and left me just dumped in the middle of Soho, just wandering around, taking in the infrastructure, the wonder of the cities, seemingly endless skyscrapers, and a homeless man jump kicking a dumpster into the street, and then like 5 New Yorkers ganging up to tell him that he needed to clean it up, which he did, and that was really weird to me. None of that was expected. But as I aimlessly wandered around the city, the rain started picking up, so I spotted this little thrift shop. Now, I'm not a thrifter, and I wasn't really prepped for the rain, and according to the forecast, it was gonna blow over really, really quickly. So I went into this really well-lit, clean sub-basement shop that had like 2,000 or 3,000 square foot of just racks and racks of clothes, and I was a little shocked with like how much they actually had. But I was just walking around trying to stay out of the rain, and I wandered towards pretty much the back of the store, but I started like looking around, and I walked up to the first rack, and I run my hand over all of these clothes, and for no particular reason, and this is gonna sound so made up, and it's not, okay? For no particular reason, I grab a hanger and I begin to pull this jacket off the rack. It was like a bomber jacket, and I was pulling it out, and there was a patch on the front right breast. And this is true. That patch said my last name on it, stitched right here. Like, I don't really share my last name on here. It's Mullen. I don't really care. And there are a few different variations of spelling it. This was like my literal last name. And I was like, huh, that's weird. The first coat I pull off the first rack in my first time in Manhattan just happens to say my last name on it, spelled correctly. So I pull the rest out. I'm curious at this point. And I kid you not, like on the left front breast, it says Chris. And I'm like, Ashton, where are you? Like, this has to be a setup. But then I realized there was no way that they would know that I would walk into this shop unless the rain and the homeless man were a very Truman-esque attempt to divert me. But I mean, Ashton never came out, right? So I want you to know something about me, like how pragmatic I am. I did not buy that jacket. I was like, it's $35. What am I going to do with this? It doesn't fit me. Am I going to walk around with a jacket that says my first and last name on it? What am I going to do if I keep it at home? Just like frame it or keep it in a closet? So I didn't buy it. But then that dude I went into town with was having none of that. So he had a friend who lived in Soho, grabbed the jacket, and then that jacket ended up on my doorstep one day with no note, no packaging, no nothing. It was super bizarre, but it didn't take me long to figure out what happened. So the point is, weird stuff happens, right? Like, I remember the quiet of that night, just thinking, like, am I in the Matrix? Was this a sign from the gods? If so, like, what was the point? Helping the thrift shop's bottom line? Like, I don't get it if it was a sign. Why did this happen? And I settled on that topic, as I do with most things.
It happens.
What, shit?
Sometimes.
And that's the deeper meaning of this episode. We can wait on the sidelines, hoping that our numbers will turn up and the big ticket thing gets delivered to us and money will just pour into our bank accounts, or we can seize the opportunities that come our way. Daryl hit a point where he thought he could coast. Andy's words to Daryl were all too real to me, as I've been told the very same thing in my career. Someone asked me in an interview once, if you could do anything you wanted to do at your current company, what would you do? And I went into this very detailed and enthusiastic idea I'd been kicking around in my head for quite a while, maybe like a year. And then that dude said to me, and I thought, this is great. Like, this is such a good idea. This guy's going to be so impressed with me. The guy looked at me and he said, well, why haven't you done that? And I was like, dang it. Dude's right. He was smudge, but he was right.
I think you mean smug.
Arrogance.
I'd gotten so caught up in like all the limitations that other people were put on me at that job, and I stopped fighting for the things that I was passionate about in my career. Life is crazy. Opportunities come and go. Tragedy and comedy happen out of the blue. Ambition, I don't think, is the goal of this episode. It's not trying to say if you really work hard, you're going to get everything you want. It's just saying that we need to live a life that when it's done, well, getting close to being done, that you're satisfied. When you lay down at night, you go, man, did I push? Did I do what I wanted to do today? Can I be satisfied with what I did? That's where I think Daryl's emotional climax comes to. That's what she said. Season 8 is doing a lot of things to me. Let's rate this thing.
This is the worst.
Hey, thanks to all the patrons supporting me on Patreon and here on YouTube memberships. Your support helps to get these videos a little bit more consistent. Click those links if you're possibly interested in helping pay my editors. This cold opening feels rather disjointed. Like, try as I may, I could not think of a way to fit this into the deeper meaning of the episode at all. And it's much more fantastical nature of the whole thing just seems larger than life. Oscar's for sure getting a lawsuit, this dog's virtually in the exact same situation it started in, and Kevin's dead. It's not all bad though. I give it a 2 out of 5 on the scale of Office cold openings.
And one for good measure.
I do enjoy Dwight's dog training techniques though. It's like, in his mind, all dogs know German.
Nein, sitz. Good.
As for the Lotto episode, I do have a special connection with this one because of all of the things this episode makes me feel, but all of that stuff is very deeply personal to me, and I wouldn't expect everyone to have that same sense. Directing from Krasinski is fine. Okay, so I don't have any notes there. He would go on to create, write, and direct the Quiet Place films, and those are fantastic. So it's kind of cool to see him cutting his teeth here. I think I have one very large and very Andy-based complaint.
To down here like Mr. T.
And this will get seriously annoying. I feel sympathy for the jerks who have to listen to this all day.
If they were looking to shape Andy into a sympathetic character, as they had done in the previous 2 episodes, then moments like this should have been completely outlawed. I get the ideas to demonstrate that he is struggling as a new leader, but reminding us of the fact that he is a very annoying person is probably a mistake. Michael was cringe. He made people feel uncomfortable. He crossed lines that we tend to consider taboo, but through all of that, it was more of a reluctant villain situation. Because of that, the general audience would overlook Michael's faux pas and find the humor in the situations he'd create.
But it's hard for you, right? Because you're in a wheelchair.
No, I just have a lot of properties to manage.
Annoying people, on the other hand, we tend to reject that type of nonsense and begin to shut that person out of our periphery. Which again, in fairness, was the point of what's happening at the beginning of this episode. No one's listening to Andy, and that was the point. But at the end of the episode, Daryl listens to Andy. That's good. Like, it's a nice end. It's fine. The mistake lies in actually annoying us, the audience, with Andy, rather than just alluding to everyone that he's annoying. I'm telling you, like, moments like when he does this Mr. T thing,
Mr. T.
I'm like, that dude could be a star of a show called
Babies I Don't Care About.
It's a minor complaint, I get that, but this is a shift and it feels like a step back for a character, and an unwelcomed one at that. Overall, I'm gonna give the Lotto a 3 out of 5. Thank you so much for everyone watching this episode. Give the Patreon a look, and leave a like and all that YouTube crap if you are interested in helping me out. Join us next time. We're going to take a look at the Garden Party episode, which is another meaty episode of The Office.
It'll all be goat.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.